Hello everyone, this is Upender, your English teacher, and today we are going to study the first chapter from your uh, second book, Vistas. The name of the chapter is The Third Level by Jack Finney. Well, this story is a unique story. Unique in the sense that it is about a curious experience which others find hard to believe. Students, I would like to here remind you of a chapter that you have done in your plus one. It is quite similar to that chapter. So the chapter that I am here, asking you to remember is the chapter The Adventure, right? By Jatin Narlikar. So in that chapter, again, a curious incident had happened. The main character or protagonist, Professor Getonde, had time traveled. So this chapter is also about a time travel. So this chapter is quite similar to the incident that happened in the chapter The Adventure. I think this will make you, now prepared to understand this chapter more easily. Before I introduce you to the text of the chapter, here is an overview about the chapter. So this chapter deals with a unique experience. The protagonist or the main character experiences a strange phenomenon. He time travels and goes into the past in 1894. However, he has to come back to the present. Psychiatrist says he experienced it on account of the prevalent insecurity, fear, and stress in his life. Let's see what happens in the story. So, here is the chapter. On the left hand side, you will have the text of the chapter, and on the right hand side, you will have some pictures. These pictures, will help you, you know, create the right image in your mind, right? So, let's start. The president of the New York Central and the New York New Haven and Hartford railroads will swear on a stack of timetables that there are only two. So this line means the New York Central railway station has two levels, right? Only two levels, right? One level from where the trains go to other cities, and the other level, you know, is from where the metro rain metro train within the city plies or runs. But I say there are three because I have been on the third level of the Grand Central Station, right? So the narrator says the authorities of the New York Central Railway Station will say there are two levels, but the narrator says, I have seen the third level also, right? Yes, I have taken the obvious step. And, after having seen the third level at the Grand Central Station, he had to see a psychiatrist. That is, his wife took him to the psychiatrist because for the entire world there are only two levels. I have already told you, first level from where the trains for other cities, that is intercity trains ply, and the second level intracity metro plies. But the author saw the third level. It means there was something wrong with his mind, so he had to see a psychiatrist, right? Yes, I have taken the obvious step. I talked to a psychiatrist friend of mine, among others. Yes, he saw a psychiatrist and discussed with him this phenomenon. I told him about the third level at Grand Central Station, and he said it was a waking dream, wish fulfillment. And after having listened to the narrator, the psychiatrist said it was impossible to find the third level because it doesn't exist. It didn't exist at that time. So he's further explained to him that his seeing the third level actually was a psychological phenomenon that happened to him, and that phenomenon is known as waking dream wish fulfillment. It means whenever we have a strong wish, we always keep dreaming about it, and maybe we fulfill that desire or that dream of ours in our dreams only, or in our wishes only. So this is called dream, fulfilling something through dreams, right? So he said I was unhappy, and psychologist or psychiatrist also said that he experienced this phenomenon because he was unhappy, right? So when the narrator's wife heard it, she became quite angry. See, that made my wife kind of mad. Mad here means angry. But he explained that he meant the modern world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it, and that I just want to escape, right? So when the wife got angry, so the psychiatrist also tried to pacify the wife. The wife thought the narrator was unhappy on account of her, but the psychiatrist explained to the wife, or narrator's wife, that what he meant was he was unhappy on account of the insecurity, fear, war, worry present in the modern world. And it's quite true. The modern world is full of, insecurity, fear, war, worry. For example, uh, in the modern times we are worried about COVID-19, right? The entire country, rather entire world, is undergoing tough times on account of COVID-19. Similarly, each time, or each era has its own insecurity, fear, war, worry. And children, let me tell you here, Jack Finney had seen both the world wars. So he has kind of mentioned his fear of insecurity, war, worry, right, in this chapter also, right? So now we are continuing with the text. Well, who doesn't? This line means everybody in the world feels insecure, feels fear, feels war, feels worry, right? So everybody is kind of living in an insecure world, the world which is full of worries, tensions, and stress. So everybody I know wants to escape, right? Here the narrator is saying that it is quite true. The world is full of insecurity, fear, worry, war, stress, tension, and most of the people want to escape from this world. Escape here means, go into a world that is far better than the current world, where there is no tension, where there is no worry, right? But they don't wander down into any third level at Grand Central Station. But since everybody is tense about this world, but very few people find the third level at the Grand Central Station. So but that is the reason, he said, and my friends all agreed. So everyone agreed that narrator had found the third level because of stress, tension, and worry. So everything points to it, they claimed, and all of them agreed that there were other factors that compelled the narrator to find the third level. One of the factors was my stamp collecting. For example, see, this is stamp collection. There are people in this world who collect stamps, and Charlie, that is the narrator, had the habit of the hobby of collecting stamps. So this stamp collection also was instrumental in helping him find the third level, a temporary refuge from reality. Temporary refuge from reality. Refuge here is a safe place, a shelter. So the narrator found some relaxation while spending time in stamp collection. And each human being has a temporary refuge. Nowadays most of the people run away from the stress of the modern world, using their mobile phones, their computers, or watching TV. But in the past, here Charlie found a relaxation in stamp collection. Well, maybe, but my grandfather didn't need any refuge from reality. Now look here, important line. Charlie remembers that his grandfather, lived a great life. He was never ever tense. He was never ever afraid. He was never ever scared. He was never ever, fearful of anything. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his days. Yes, in the past, the things were very peaceful. There was no stress, there was no tension. From all I hear, and he started my collection. And it was his grandfather actually who had started this collection and then handed him over this stamp collection. It is nice collection too, right? And the stamp collection, he has a quite a nice stamp collection. Maximum stamps from all across the world he has. It is a nice collection too, blocks of four of practically every US issue, first day covers and so on. And in his stamp collection there were stamps which the US Postal Department had issued since beginning, and he had in that collection first covers also, that is first day covers. President Roosevelt collected stamps too, you know. So President Roosevelt also collected stamps. He also had this hobby. So in this piece of text, in this extract, in this section of text which we are going to read, Charlie will be sharing with us that unique experience as it happened to him. So anyway, here is what happened at Grand Central. Now he is going to share with us what had happened. One night last summer, I worked late at office. So you see, he's sharing with us that incident. One night last summer, he worked late at the office. I was in a hurry to get uptown to my apartment. So after the late hours, he wanted to reach his apartment in hurry. So he decided to take the subway from Grand Central. So he decided to take a subway. Subway means metro train, because it's faster than the bus. So now I don't know why this should have happened to me. Charlie says, I don't know why it happened to me. I am just an ordinary guy named Charlie. So you see, he says his name is only, he's an ordinary human being, and he has an ordinary name, Charlie, 31 years old. And I was wearing a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. So this was what he was wearing that particular day. So at the Grand Central Station, I passed a dozen men who looked just like me. And I wasn't trying to escape from anything. And Charlie here says he was not trying to escape. He was just trying to get home. And just wanted to get home to Luisa, my wife. And kindly note down the name of the wife is Luisa. So here we have come to know the names of the characters. Charlie, the main character, the narrator, and here Luisa, his wife. So I turned into Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the first level where you take trains like the 20th century, right? So here the narration of the incident is going on. Charlie is telling us how he experienced that third level phenomena. So he reached the Grand Central Station and he entered it through Vanderbilt Avenue, and he went down the steps, and there were trains standing like the 20th century trains. Then I walked down another flight to the second level. So here on the first level, the trains went to intercity trains, right? So at the second level, the metro level was, that is, the trains within the city plied, where the suburban trains leave from. So ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway and got lost. So while going to the second level, from where the metro train started or plied, he got lost. That is easy to do. Now here Charlie says it is easy to get lost at the Grand Central Station because it's a very big station. I have been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I am always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. So here Charlie tells कि Grand Central Station is always under construction. That is, new corridors are being constructed, new doorways are being constructed, stairs are being constructed. So the Grand Central Station always keeps expanding, so that's why it's easy to get lost there. So once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. So this, he's sharing with us the enormity of the Grand Central Station, that once uh, in the past he had uh, got lost in the similar manner. He had gone into a tunnel, and the tunnel took him to Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, and here he's telling us another incident when he had got lost and he had you know come at the 46th Street, 3 blocks away. See, 3 blocks away from where the Grand Central Station is. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. So here he compares the Grand Central Station to a growing tree. A growing tree is always growing. Its roots under the ground, they are always you know expanding into different directions. Similarly, and the Grand Central Station was always expanding like a tree. Now coming back to that unique incident that happened to Charlie, and Charlie is telling us about that unique incident. So there is probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about, feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park. So Charlie says, nobody can uh, guarantee that right now at the Grand Central Station some tunnel is not being constructed. That is, the construction work must be going on somewhere at the Grand Central Station. And maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. Maybe that is how the tunnel I got into. So he says, because of the enormity of the Grand Central Station, so many people could escape to different worlds through the various tunnels existing at the Grand Central Station. And maybe because of the vastness of the tunnels and the say presence of so many tunnels at the Grand Central Station, he got lost into one of those tunnels that took him to the third level. But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. So this thing he had kept hidden from uh, you know the psychiatrist whom he had met after uh, getting lost and arriving at the third level, and then again coming back to the third level. Now he will be telling us how he actually got to the third level and then came back to the present time again. So the corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong. See, this kind of experience. So as uh, here we are now discussing Charlie's that day when he had got late and he had to catch metro to reach his apartment in hurry, right? So that particular day when he had gone in to the second level, there he got lost in a tunnel, and the tunnel started angling left, right? You see, all I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps, and I didn't pass a soul. He kept walking in that tunnel, and as he was walking in that tunnel, his own footsteps echoed, and there was no human being in that tunnel. You see, this kind of experience, this picture creates that image, right? So, right, then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead, that means open space and people talking. Then, as he kept moving ahead in the tunnel, he heard that at the end of the tunnel there were some people who were talking, right? So the tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. And as he reached the end of the tunnel, right, he had some, stairs to climb down. He went down those stairs, and when he reached the last stair, he found himself standing at the third level. Third level means he had gone into a different time. Uh, Let us see how. For just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level. So as he reached the third level, he thought he had come to the second level from where he was to catch the train. But I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. So what he found was that at that level, everything looked old, belonging to the old era. For example, belonging to the 19th century, not to the 20th century. The room was smaller, there were fewer ticket windows, and everything was made up of wood, not, granite or marble or some fancy tiles, but of wood. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. So you see, obsolete way of dressing, and a green eye shade and a long black sleeve protector. The lights were dim and sort of flickering, and the lights, they were not LED lights or they were not fluorescent lights. They were, you know, dim lights, flickering. It means they were either wicks or candles. Then I saw why. They were open flame gas lights. See, they were open flame gas lights. There were brass spittoons on the floor, and across the station a glint of light caught my eye. You see, there were spittoons. Now, spittoons were used in the past to spit into, and these spittoons had been kept here and there the way, in the modern times, dustbins are kept. In the old times, people used to spit, right? And nowadays, people don't spit often. It is considered bad, but in the old times, spittoons, were kept there for people to spit into. Then a glint of light caught my eyes. Glint me here means a ray of light. That is something shone, and he was attracted towards that. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket, right? So see, in the 20th century, people wore wrist watches, but in 19th century, people had pocket watches. So somebody pulled out a pocket watch, and it was made of gold to look at time. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. And that person looked at his watch and frowned. Frown means made an angry expression. So he wore a derby hat, a black four-button suit with tiny lapels. Now, lapels are the folds on the coat, right? On the chest. So you see, he noticed that people at the third level, they were wearing everything belonging to the old times, right? Obsolete times belonging to the 19th century. And he had a big black handlebar mustache, and he had big mustaches. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. See, here he has mentioned he had gone into a different time and different space. See, everybody wore 18th, 19 something fashion clothes. So I never saw so many beards, and most of the time in the 20th century had clean shaven faces, but in 19th century most of people kept beards, sideburns. Sideburns means the hair on the side of our face, right? uh, and fancy mustaches in my life. So a woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high button shoes. See, even the ladies were wearing old style clothes. Back of her, out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive. Locomotive means engines, right? So in 19th century, most of the engines in New York, they were either electric or diesel. The steam engines had been phased out. But what he saw on the railway tracks, a very small carrier and ease locomotive with a funnel shaped stack. And then I knew, see, he saw this type of engine standing, and these types of engines were used in 19th century, that is in 1890 something. So to make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. So in order to make sure whether he had really, come into the past, Charlie went to a newspaper stand and looked at the papers at his feet. It was The World, the name of the newspaper. So he looked at a newspaper lying, and its name was The World. And The World hasn't been published for years. And The World is a newspaper that was published in the late 19th century, right? So the lead story said something about President Cleveland. So I have found that front page since, and in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. So you see, the newspaper at which Charlie was looking at had the date of June 11, 1894. He verified it later at the public library files. So I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go. So in the year 1894, and I wanted two tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. So right, so standing in the past, right, in 1894, Charlie had a thought that he should buy two tickets, one for himself, the other for Louisa, for Galesburg, Illinois, because his grandfather lived there, and he would have a peaceful living at Galesburg, Illinois. So that is what he decided. So have you ever been there? Now here in this para, Charlie will be telling us about Galesburg. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still, with big old frame houses, huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets. So Galesburg is like this, peaceful, right, where there are so many trees, and trees making a kind of tunnel, right, uh, over the roads. So people have lots and lots of leisure there, and everything is wonderful. So Charlie decided to buy two tickets, ठीक to Galesburg, one for himself and the other for Louisa. Here he is again telling us about Galesburg. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out on their lawns like this, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around. Fireflies means, you see, uh, what we call in Hindi jugnu. Fireflies all around, and fireflies in the modern times, they have become, totally absent. They cannot be seen anywhere. So in a peaceful world, so to be back there with the First World War still 20 years off, and World War II over 40 years in the future. So you see here, Charlie's fear. Charlie, rather not Charlie's fear, rather it's author's fear. First World War and Second World War. Still very, very far away, Galesburg was quite a peaceful place to live in, right? I wanted two tickets for that, and Charlie wanted to go to Galesburg. So Charlie went to the, you know, ticket window and asked for two tickets. So the clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy hatband, but he figured the fare. So You see, the clerk, when he saw Charlie, he was a little bit surprised because Charlie was wearing weird clothes. That is, Charlie was wearing 20th century clothes, but Charlie himself was in 19th century, late 19th century. So the clerk was amazed to, look at Charlie. But still, he figured, that is, he collected the fare. Fare means kiraya. And I had enough for two coach tickets one way. So Charlie had enough money, uh, one way tickets. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me. So, as Charlie was about to pay the clerk, uh, he noticed that the clerk was looking angrily at him, right? Suspiciously at him. He nodded at the bills. Bills here means notes. So the clerk pointed out towards the notes. Now let me here, bring to your notice that in currency also changes over the years. In olden times, the currency notes were quite bigger, right? But in the modern times, we have smaller notes. So the notes which Charlie was having, they were quite small. But in 1894, notes used were quite bigger. So the clerk got suspicious that Charlie was carrying fake currency. So that is what the clerk said. That is not money, mister, he said. And if you are trying to skin me, you won't get very far. So the clerk warned him, kindly give me the original money and don't try to cheat me. If you try to cheat me, I will inform the police and you will be arrested. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him, right? And of course there was an alarm, you know near the cash drawer which he could press anytime. So of course the money was old style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking. So I turned away and got out fast. So Charlie got scared because Charlie didn't have the old style money. So uh, if he stayed there any longer, the ticket clerk could call the police anytime and Charlie could be arrested anytime. So Charlie immediately ran out of the tunnel through which he had come to the third level. There is nothing nice about jail because Charlie didn't want to be jailed in even in 1894. And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. So Charlie came out of the third level in fear because he didn't want to get arrested at the third level. So as he came out of the tunnel, right, he came back to the modern times. Next day, during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old currency. That really worried my psychiatrist friend, right? See? So you see, Charlie was so much interested in the third level that next day during the lunch hour, he went to his bank, drew out all his money, and with that money, he went to the currency dealer and bought all the old style currency notes that his money could buy. So you can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium. Premium means you have to pay more. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills. So you see, 300 modern dollars bought 200 old style notes. But I didn't care. And Charlie didn't mind it. Charlie spent the money. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894 because things were quite cheap at Galesburg in 1894. So he wanted to get there at Galesburg at any cost. Uh, and these $200 would, go a long way, right? In 1894. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station. Now, another strange thing happened. Charlie tried to find the third level again, but he could never ever find again. Although I've tried often enough. And Charlie not tried just once, Charlie tried many times once. After that incident. but he could not find the third level. So Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this and didn't want me to look for the third level anymore. And after a while, I stopped. So Louisa, Charlie's wife, became very much agitated and worried that why was Charlie in search of third level. So she didn't want him to find the third level. And after so many of attempts, when Charlie could not find the third level, he stopped finding it. So he went back to my stamps. So I went back to my stamp collection. But now we are both looking every weekend because now we have proof that the third level is still there. But again, a very strange thing happened. You know, after a few, months, when Charlie stopped looking for third level, something strange happened. And after that strange incident, now Charlie as well as Louisa, his wife, they both are looking for the third level. Now, what was that strange incident? Here, my friend Sam Weiner disappeared. You see, in the beginning, we talked about a psychiatrist. That psychiatrist actually was Charlie's friend, and his name was Sam Weiner. So he disappeared. You see, the psychiatrist disappeared. Now nobody knew where. But I sort of suspected because Sam is a city boy and I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place. So you know, uh, Charlie had an intuition that Sam Weiner had gone to Galesburg because often when Charlie had discussed with Sam Weiner about Galesburg, Sam Weiner had shown a lot of interest in Galesburg because he also liked a peaceful life. And here it is mentioned since the psychiatrist friend Sam Weiner also lived in city, he must have also been very very stressed. So he also was in search of a peaceful place, and that is where he is. And then something happened which confirmed that uh, Sam Weiner, the psychiatrist, is at Galesburg in 1894. So here is what confirms that the psychiatrist is at Galesburg in 1894. Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? Well, one day when Charlie was, spending time with his stamps, he found something. What did he find? He found a first day cover. Now, what is a first day cover? Here, when a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale. Well, this first day cover is, specific to the stamp collectors only. Stamp collectors have a unique way to collect stamps. Whenever a new stamp is issued, they buy a postcard, they put that stamp on that postcard and mail it to themselves. That is, they mail that envelope to themselves, right? And when the stamp first day cover arrives in their mailbox, they take it out and store it in their stamp collection. So this is a first day cover, right? And the postmark proves the date, right? So the envelope is called a first day cover. So they are never opened. So first day covers are never opened. You just put blank paper in the envelope. So only the blank papers are put in the envelope. So this is what the stamp collectors do, right? So that night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there. So that night, when Charlie was spending time with his stamps, he found a unique first day cover. And that first day cover shouldn't have been there. But there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That is what the address on the envelope said. And and it had been there since July 18, 1894. So the postmark showed that. Yet I didn't remember it at all. So he found a strange first day cover having the date July 18, 1894, and that first day cover had been posted by someone to his grandfather. So he found that first day cover. Yet I didn't remember it at all, right? So Charlie had gone through his all first day covers a lot many times, but he had never paid any particular attention to this first day cover. So that day he became interested in that first day cover. So the stamp was a 6 cent dull brown with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to the granddad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there till I took it out and opened it. So that night, Charlie opened that first day cover. And what did he see? You see, the paper inside wasn't blank, it read. And in that first day cover, there wasn't a blank paper, there was a letter inside it. And who had written this letter? See, Sam had written. Sam, the psychiatrist. So you see the address is 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, and the date is July 18, 1894. Charlie, I got to wishing that you were right. So here Sam is writing to Charlie from past, right? I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believe you were right. And Charlie, it is true. I found the third level. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now down the street at Dally's, someone is playing a piano, and they are all out on the front porch singing Seeing Nellie Home, and I am invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It is worth it, believe me. So this letter was sent to Charlie and Louisa by Sam from Galesburg, and here he admitted that it was Charlie who had given him the idea about third level, and he had found it quite interesting. So he followed the idea, and he found out the third level. And he not only found the third level, through the third level, he went to Galesburg successfully. He settled there, and he has found life at Galesburg very leisurely, very interesting, very peaceful. People are in no hurry, they are enjoying their lives, they are singing, they are dancing, they are, you know, enjoying lemonade. And so he invites Charlie and Louisa through this letter to keep looking for the third level, as it is worth having it, right? So this was the letter found by uh, Charlie in his first day covers. So this first day cover, you know gave Charlie the proof that third level existed. So what did Charlie do then? At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old currency. So, after this incident, Charlie went to the, currency dealer, and to the shop where he usually bought his stamps and, old style money. So he came to know from the shopkeeper, or that currency dealer, old currency dealer, that Charlie had bought some $800 worth of old style currency from him. It means with such a huge amount of old style money, Charlie wanted to go back to Galesburg and settle there. So Charlie thought that ought to set him up in a nice little hay, feed, and grain business. And Charlie knew what he would do with that money. Actually, Sam wanted to start his business of hay, feed, and grain at Galesburg. So he always said that is what he really wished he could do. And he certainly can't go back to his old business. And certainly at Galesburg, a psychiatrist uh, friend could not set up the shop of psychiatry, because in 1894 there was hardly any stress or hardly any fear or hardly any security that would throw people into depression, right? So put simply, there was no demand of psychiatry in 1894, so Sam could not run his business of psychiatry. So he wanted to start hay, feed, and grain business there, right? Not in Galesburg, Illinois. So in 1894, his old business. Why? Sam was my psychiatrist. So here you see, uh, here Charlie is telling the readers that look, even his psychiatrist friend, who was supposed to treat mental illnesses related to fear, depression, right, psychosis, neurosis, uh, even he was suffering from fear, worry, tension, and he wanted to escape to a safer world. Even the psychiatrist friend, needed that safety, which he found at Galesburg. So, dear students, with this we finish the chapter. I hope you liked it, and I hope you will make best use of it. I will be sending you its notes soon, which you can write in your fair notebooks. That's all. Good day.